This is the oddest finals that most of us have had the pleasure to watch. There aren't any proven champions in the ring. There aren't any continued storylines that have cultivated throughout the season. They're just two great teams throwing their best options available at each other and hoping everything turns out alright. The Suns as the breakout team that play pure skilled basketball all the way to basketball's biggest stage, and the Bucks as the cast surrounding the next biggest basketball star, showing that their weapons are just as dangerous at the flanks as they are the mantle. That didn't make sense. Roll with it, please, though. And in this series, moments were made that were historic. Storylines were forged for the first time, and a seed was planted in the future of the NBA for years to come. And all of it is unprecedented. Fresh as a crisp of lettuce, man. Cause, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that we are in a new era of basketball, and that's not a good thing for the NBA. What's up, y'all? I'm KipKyle11, and yes, I thought the Suns were winning this series. Like, no, seriously, after they're up 2-0, and Giannis was dropping 40 and still losing, it's hard to say. I joined the Suns in 4 crowd. Yeah, I mean, I got caught up, that's all I can say. Yeah, I know, but still. Wow. For the first time in a while, I was caught rooting for a team that I had no previous association with. Now, part of that has to do with my Giannis disdain. Yeah, I know, I can explain, I'm a Harden fan. But yeah, both of the teams are very easy to root for. They're dynamic and interesting, and not really hateable, if you exclude Chris Paul from the equation, of course. Which is a very recent thing in the NBA. Last year, you had the Miami Heat, a very likable team. The year before that, you had the Toronto Raptors. You really couldn't hate them unless you were a Spurs fan, maybe. There continues to be a trend of new blood in the finals, with teams that don't really have much entrenched history behind them, for now, which does seem to pose a problem, traditionally speaking. The NBA's had a marketing problem for a long time. Or should I say distinct priority system. On one hand, having the top people of the league and the big cities be the face of the NBA and the media talk and all, that can be beneficial for casual fans. With a sport that doesn't have that many people on the court and a direct influence from those players on the performance of their individual teams. But there gets to a point where that becomes a huge fault. Like when, hypothetically speaking, you have 2 small markets in the NBA finals, with a noticeable lack of megastars. At that point, yeah, you're in trouble. Now, in other sports, this likely wouldn't be an issue, but in the NBA, it's a very unique problem because they focus on the big names in big cities rather than the actual product. It makes me think of the 2016 NBA Finals a little bit. Like, of course, you had the big faces at that time, LeBron and Steph, and the Golden State and LeBron. What really enticed me to those finals was its storyline. I mean, of course, you had the Warriors going off in historical proportions and breaking barriers and all that, but then you also had the Cleveland Cavaliers, specifically Cleveland, that had not had a sports championship in 50 plus years and had multiple failed attempts to do so, and then their hometown kid, after some disagreements, eventually came back with a championship caliber roster and now was attempting to win them a championship to break the curse of Cleveland. It was peak drama, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's honestly one of the reasons I really fell in love with the NBA, because you can have drama like that, you can have storylines that can create an increased tension amongst the two teams, give you a reason to root over one team than the other, and of course make it interesting to watch, or at least interesting to follow for many casual fans. Now, these are where small markets are put at a disadvantage, because they don't really have much exposure in the first place, even if they are good. Because you see all the big markets always being talked about, Los Angeles, Golden State, New York, and small markets never get a chance. Like, when's the last time you heard something about the Indiana Pacers that wasn't bad? Did you know they almost eliminated LeBron James in his 2018 playoff run? Small markets always get the short end of the stick in media coverage, because they focus more on the faces and the cities than the actual product on the floor. Like, okay, full disclosure, I think Milwaukee is one of the most boring cities ever. Sorry for anyone that lives in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's just boring to me. Like, just hearing of the city, it being in Wisconsin, the colors, the people don't seem all that interesting. The team only being good in the regular season and then flaming out. Before they got Drew Holiday, that's what they were really known for. All of those factors take me away from the actual dynamic of the team and the players that it's comprised of. Excluding Giannis, there's no real reason the NBA would want you to really root for this team. There's no tension there outside of Milwaukee. There's no visible stakes other than Giannis Antetokounmpo winning his first championship, which is a shame. And then Pheonix basically came out of nowhere with next to no history. I mean, if you look, they had to pull things back all the way from the 70s. I mean, that's when the NBA used to look like this.
The Lakers keep driving. Mel counts, misproduction.
If you're not a fan of Kobe Booker, you know what I'm saying? If you're not a fan of Devin Booker or Chris Paul, I mean, you can like them, I guess, but the NBA isn't giving you much material to work with. If I'm remembering right, there really weren't on that many national television games, so you couldn't even have the chance to even watch them. And we're not talking about the basketball savants here, we're talking about the casual to medium something fan, you know? People who like to watch the game because the context is interesting. And the saddest part about this is that there's so many storylines that are so rich, other than, you know, just Chris Paul winning himself a ring. I mean, you have a young team on a tear with superstar Devin Booker making his mark on the league, coming from one of the worst teams in the league to the best, or at least one of the two best within just 2 short years, with little to no change, and using people that have been drafted and picked out from the dirt, and people that were basically left for dead in the NBA world, and now becoming one of the best teams out there. And then on the Bucks side, you have, of course, Giannis cementing his legacy, chasing after something that he hasn't had before. Have we had any context for Giannis winning his first ring? Any type of comparisons, really? I haven't seen anything, even though he's been performing at a historical level. I mean, like, come on now. What we're seeing is amazing, and it's some of the best basketball that we've seen. I mean, you got everything that you could ever ask for in a series. You got the ball movement, it's there. You got the three, it's there. You got mid-ranges, it's there. You got dunks, it's there. You got elite defense, it's there. You got pretty much anything you could ask for. It's amazing basketball out there that's being played. Fast break points, elite shooting, so many different things that you could just go on and on and on about. This series is immaculate, and I didn't even talk about the closeness and the drama of these games, man. I don't know why no one is talking about this, but there have only been 3 teams ever in the history of the NBA to overcome a 2-0 deficit in the NBA Finals and continue on to win the championship. This is something that's unprecedented that's happening here, with 2016 type stakes going on here. And not only that, but the games have been close. For approximately the last half of this series, the most that a game has been decided by is like 6 points. Every game has had basketball drama in it in one point or another. I mean, come on. I don't even gotta talk about the lob. I don't even gotta talk about the block. I'm just talking about the scores itself. But the NBA is still struggling to pull viewership. At the time of this recording, before Game 6, this finals viewership is on par with the 2007 NBA Finals between the LeBron James and the Cavaliers versus the San Antonio Spurs at the peak of the dead ball era. And that was a sweep. Let me say that again. That was LeBron James' first time ever in the finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the San Antonio Spurs, one of the most boring, successful teams that has ever graced the hardwood. And it was a sweep. And of course, this series is way more entertaining than that could have ever been. Now, there are a bunch of blah stuff that the NBA is talking about. You know, oh, people aren't watching television anymore. The pandemic messed everything up. You know, all these official reasons from the NBA, which indeed may have some truth to them. But at the end of the day, it's because of the marketing. During the regular season, another thing that the NBA actually admitted, neither team was in the top 5 watched teams by audiences, with Milwaukee just barely missing out at number 6 and Pheonix being number 17. And of course, a lot of that has to do with them being small markets. LeBron James isn't playing, neither is Steph Curry. When both of them went off against each other in a non-elimination game to just make the playoffs, that beat almost every single game in the 2020 NBA Finals by itself. It's hard to make storylines with brand new characters, especially in the sports world, especially in the NBA. Actually, I'll take that back. In the sports world, it probably isn't that hard. And just for the NBA, they just make it so. I mean, if we look at the NFL, they're able to pull off great drama with every game no matter what happens. And of course, that has to do with the tradition and the actual potency of the game to be dramatic. They're consistently great because there is always some sort of intensity, some sort of drama that's built into the game. The NBA is physically unable to do this because not only of the long regular season, but also because of the format in which the playoffs are played. Best of 7 isn't nearly as exciting as best of 1. The NBA, of course, understands this, as they are a smart league, and it's why the play-in tournament is officially here to stay, because it creates drama all by itself. It doesn't need a big face or big city to draw viewers. But of course, the big faces, and by extension the big cities, we're looking at you, ESPN, are the bread and butter of the NBA's marketing scheme. But of course, there is a huge detriment to that. When you only focus on a select amount of players, and also just a select amount of cities, then it doesn't matter what happens on the courts. The product on the floor could be better and more exciting than the faces that were attached to it, but it could still end up performing worse. That's something that the NBA sorely needs to fix, because LeBron's not gonna be around forever. Steph's gonna retire someday. Kevin Durant's like 32. Kawhi might miss the whole next season. Ben Simmons cannot shoot a jump shot for his life. That wasn't nearly relevant enough for me to say, but I said it anyways because it's so true. The NBA is going to have to get used to new faces and new teams on its biggest stage. And right now it is definitely suffering. I'd say it's going through growing pains as people get more familiar with the new faces and allow for the new storylines to develop and mature. The league will end up better for it. Thanks for watching.